Kevin, can you hear me?
I can indeed.
Welcome to Australia's biggest NFT event.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me.
We're very excited to talk to you for the next sort of 25 to 30 minutes. First question I sort of wanted to ask you, your favorite coffee, Proud Mary's, is that correct? We've seen some tweets.
That's right.
Okay.
Absolutely. It's funny. I should have kept my Proud Mary hat on because I was wearing it prior to this, but I was like, I should go with the Moonbirds logo. But yeah, fantastic coffee. Obviously, founded out in your neck of the woods, but also they have a location in Portland, Oregon, where I would live previously, and so I would go down there. I still have a subscription sent to my house because it's just some of the best geisha single origin coffee on the planet. So yeah,
you get it sent to the US, Proud Mary's.
They ship it domestically now here, so I'm assuming they do a big shipment and then co-pack it locally. But yeah, it's great.
Excellent. Well, we are in the heart of Melbourne right now in St Kilda at the Alex Theatre, where we've got great cafes all around. So yeah, next time you're out in Australia, I'm sure there's a lot of people in the audience who would love to get a coffee with you.
I would love that. I mean, I've heard the coffee culture out there is just stellar, so I got to take advantage of that.
Absolutely. Well, we know we only got a short amount of time, so let's get into it. But just first question is, why Proof? I mean, you've obviously had a pretty stellar career in tech overall, but why did you go down the Web3 rabbit hole like you did?
You know, I would say that I had been paying attention to blockchain for quite some time, since early Bitcoin days. And it was always just something fun to kind of speculate on and to, just more or less just purchase and hold digital currencies as an investment, really an alternative investment. Then DeFi summer happened. So some of the programmability of the blockchain with Ethereum started looking quite interesting. Started making some investments there at True Ventures, where I'm a partner at that firm. And then, NFTs had a resurgence. So I was lucky enough to have minted some of the early CryptoPunks way back in the day, but honestly thought they were just fun. It was a fun little experiment. I didn't ever think they'd be worth anything. And then immediately forgot about them and woke back up, 2.5, 3 years later and saw, wow, there's been a bunch of activity around digital collectibles in the NFT space. And so, there's just so much that NFTs fix in terms of proven provenance, in terms of proven scarcity. They're indestructible, easily transferable. There's a lot to love there. And so that got me into that kind of sector. Did a podcast about it initially, still do a podcast called Proof. It covers all things NFTs. And then eventually got into it so much that I'm like, well, we should launch something here and start a whole kind of almost like a Forrester Research or a really dedicated hardcore collectors group that became the Proof Collective, which is a 1,000-member NFT token-gated community that provides, analysis and insights around all things NFTs.
Amazing. And I've heard a story that you lost CryptoPunks, but then recovered them. Can you talk us through that?
Yeah, I was using an old wallet. Back then, there was the mnemonic phrase kind of standard 12 seed or 24 seed wallet was not a thing yet. So the wallet I was using was just called Parity, and it was an old wallet that didn't support that. So the key that I had to do my secret phrase wasn't supported by any of the modern wallets. So I had to go back and run an old operating system version and find an old version of that. I think it was a Firefox extension or something at the time to get it to work, and then finally got it working. But I was able to recover them eventually.
Yeah, incredible. Hands up in the audience. Anyone heard of Parity or ever used Parity? I'm just having a look here. So I'd say about 6 people, Kevin, in the audience. Just getting a bit of feedback there, guys. So did you think that Proof was going to blow up as quick as it did? You obviously minted in December, and then it sort of exploded, and now the market's cooled a little bit. Did you ever expect the floor of sort of the Proof pass that quickly?
Yeah, so I mean, it definitely, when we started the mint, it was kind of a Dutch auction from 5, and it eventually landed and sold out at 1. But then it was something where people were excited about this idea of a token-gated community that would focus exclusively on working directly with artists to create, unique collaborations, unique pieces of artwork, and provide that back to that small subset, that small community. So I think they were pleasantly surprised in some of the initial collaborations that we did, some of the great artists that we brought on board, and giving people access to those artists got them really excited. for building out their own personal collections. And so that's when we really started to see the price kind of soar from there. But, I certainly didn't think that, I really had no idea where this would go. We saw a crazy, just insane bull market kickoff right after we launched. So a lot of right place, right time in that particular scenario, and especially with the launch of the Moonbirds project as well. But it was it's something that we're still super passionate about and excited about. We're launching new features and products. Even today, we had a massive announcement and launch with Moonbirds. So we're heads down. We think this is a great time to build. Even in a bear market, there's less builders, which we actually, I prefer there to be more builders in this space because it is so much blue ocean. But I do like the focus, and there's less distraction going on right now, and we can just focus on producing quality products and shipping product.
Yeah, I do want to come back to Moonbirds in a second, but for the people in the audience, and I know that you've sort of joked around on this in Proof Discord and on various podcasts that, many people are so young now that they might not even remember things like Dig or even MySpace. So can you give us a little bit of an idea of sort of what Dig was and sort of your backstory as an internet entrepreneur?
Yeah, in 2004, I started a social news site called Dig, which was the first site that leveraged a technology at the time simply called dubbed Ajax, which was asynchronous JavaScript. And as odd as it sounds, to do any action on a web page back in 2004, you had to actually go to another page to say that you had accomplished something. So you'd click on something, it would take you to another page. What we pioneered was the idea of voting on content and watching those votes go up in real time. So this is pre-like button, pre-Reddit, all of that. And then the idea was that if people voted on the best content, it would get surfaced on the front page of the website. So that took off and really for 4 or 5 years was just dominating the social news space. Reddit eventually launched subreddits, which was just brilliant, which was a long tail of content that in aggregate overtook us in terms of traffic. We were 38 or so million monthly unique visitors, and then they surpassed us about year 5 or so, which was crazy. It was a crazy battle for many, many years with Alexis, but now he's an investor in Moonbirds and Proof, so we've since kind of buried the hatchet, and now we're helping each other out on building the future.
So is there unfinished business for you then, as sort of an internet entrepreneur? Like when you saw NFTs and Web3 explode, like did the fire get back in the belly? Like because you have gone all in, and for people that have followed you obviously on shows like the Tim Ferriss podcast, your depth of knowledge range from meditation to all kinds of sort of human experimentation and things like that, and now you're sort of back right in the weeds of tech. Like did you always plan on this, and do you have some unfinished business?
I wouldn't say it's unfinished business as much as it is, I've always had this natural curiosity and just wanted to build new and novel things. And some of them are very small. I've built a bunch of little small apps that, like an intermittent fasting app called Zero, or some of the smaller than some of the stuff I've done in the past. And it's just always out of personal curiosity and just wanting to see something exist that doesn't exist. So I think of my career as in venture capital. The way that we make money with our funds is that obviously we back a lot of companies over the life cycle of a fund. Funds in venture are typically deployed to 2 to 3 years to deploy a fund, and returns start happening around year 5 all the way out to pretty much around 10 years out. The companies start going public around year 5. 90% of those companies go to zero. And then you have 2 or 3 that are your absolute fund makers, the ones that return all the capital and then some. That's the nature of being an entrepreneur. And so I've always known those numbers, or not always known, but from my early reading around entrepreneurship, it was clear that most ideas fail. And once you can kind of embrace that and just be comfortable with it, that makes it a lot more fun. And so for me, I want to go out there and try wild and crazy things. And I think Web3 is an excuse to really rethink a lot of what we've done in the past, repair some of the stuff, and just come up with some new wild ideas. And a lot of it's going to fail, and some of it might work. And I think but that's the kind of spice of life for me and what I really enjoy. So that's that's why I'm back in the game. I don't feel like I have to go finish something. It's more of this natural drive to want to build. It's kind of in my DNA.
You mentioned Alexis. You had the podcast with him, I think, in December last year, and it felt like, for those that were listening, there was this sort of bromance building, but you guys were sort of talking about back in the day, sort of pranks that you would play on each other, etc. I mean, prior to that podcast, had you actually been speaking, or was that sort of the first time that you'd had a in-depth conversation?
We had been speaking a bit on and off. It was something where, even though we battled for so many years, I know that we had this kind of like mutual respect for each other, and but we weren't really that close. Then we just started kind of riffing on Web3 and some of the exciting stuff that we were seeing, and at that time we were both venture capitalists, so just doing investments and seeing his name show up on some investments and deals that I was doing, and just, and then eventually, he invited me to invest in his fund, and we just kind of got closer and closer over time. So it was kind of a slow build, but yeah, it was. I'm glad Alexis is such a brilliant entrepreneur. To have him in your corner to help, ideate on different things that you want to launch is just really, really useful.
There's a lot of pressure, obviously, being a founder in Web3. You've had a lot more experience than many other founders of sort of NFT projects out there. Describe, though, what is the difference of the pressure you felt in your younger days, sort of heading up Dig, versus now? I mean, you were sort of a little bit, to a degree, under the radar before Proof blew up, and then all of a sudden you're in the sort of public limelight again, and getting FUD on Twitter on a daily basis. Can you sort of talk to us about the difference in the pressure between the Dig days and now the Proof and Moonbirds days?
Yeah, I mean, the Dig days, when you have a single product that is free to everyone, it's kind of universally applied pressure, and that if you do something that is globally disliked, you hear it, and it's more or less the same feedback. When you're in the world of NFTs and digital collectibles, you have people that have either been with you since the beginning, have joined somewhere in the middle of the journey, or have more recently, bought into the project and have collected one of your NFTs. So you have people that all have different feelings on where you're at as a project. Proof being, I don't even know what our passes are now, but let's assume they're around 30 ETH or so. If you bought at 1 ETH, you're really stoked. You're really pumped because you got in at that price point, and you've seen a lot of value that we've created with all the different airdrops and things that we've done over the course of a year. That said, if you were buying Moonbirds at the peak of the market, some of those people are underwater, and so I certainly feel for those people that I think in NFTs in general, everyone's kind of licking their wounds in this market, but. So you have both people that love you, some people that are in the middle, some people that want to see you do more short-term wins that I think kind of can somewhat compromise the integrity of a project just for kind of press and headlines. You have some people that want to see more new kind of novel, exciting drops, more airdrops, things of that nature. So there's a whole wide range of different personalities and feedback that you get everywhere along that spectrum, and so it's very, very different. Our meetups are largely, people are very nice in person, so that's pretty easy. But you hear these stories from folks that have either kind of invested too much into the NFT market, which I feel for them. They kind of over-indexed into NFTs. Or they've had their NFTs compromised and their wallets stolen. We had one collector that lost, at the time, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of NFTs because they were hacked, which was a brutal. I jumped on a Zoom with him, and just a brutal story to hear. So it is what the Wild West. You've seen what's happened with FTX and all these other exchanges, and a lot of it are unregulated, and it's just it is just insanity out there. But with all of this turbulence, people will demand more transparency. And I think we're going to be in a much better place because of it, albeit it'll probably be 3, 6, 9, 12 months out from now. But even some of the solutions I've seen proposed just in the wake of what's happened with FTX around using zero-knowledge proofs to show proof of solvency, some of these technologies are here and they're ready and they can be used, and I think we'll be in a much safer place. Some of the even wallet advancements I've seen in terms of NFTs and what's coming down the pipeline with folks like Ledger, lots of improvements to make this world safer, largely driven by a lot of missteps, which is, it's a new market, so it is crazy.
You touched on some of the drama and obviously the FTX stuff a couple of weeks ago. I mean, this is a pretty harsh downturn over the last sort of 6 or 7 months. You've sort of rode it up and then sort of riding it back down everywhere with all the collectors. Like, is this still fun for you as a founder? Like, are you still enjoying the challenge?
Yeah, this is any new market like this. It's having been in crypto for quite some time now, I've ridden this roller coaster several times over. Like, I think my first tweets were like 2011 about Bitcoin or something. So it's been a minute. 2012. I have to go back and look, but it's been a minute since I've kind of been riding this crazy ride that is all things crypto. But I think that there's an end in sight in that I believe that a lot of the entrepreneurs that I'm seeing right now enter into this space are going after the stuff that's hurting us the most. And so it is tough to sit here in this moment in time, but it's also, this is the time to prove that you have the grit and that you're going heads down and in this for the long term. Like, I'm doing this because I believe the future of collectibles and what we're doing in NFTs is going to change the art world and the art market forever. And I'm not saying traditional art is going away, but I believe that this is going to be a legitimate form of art going forward. And I want to build all the tooling to support all of that and support the artists in that transition. And so, to do something like this is a 10+ year journey. And I enjoy it from what it is at its core. So it's a little bit, of course, the market matters and your collectors matter and the people that are, involved in this. But at its core, I think we're going to be just fine. Expect in the early days of any new market for there to be this roller coaster. And if you can get comfortable with risk showing its head, which is exactly what that is, then it gets a little bit easier. That and also making sure you don't over-index in NFTs and bet the house on it,
Amazing. I want to segue into Moonbirds. It feels like Moonbirds has been around forever, but it's really, 6 or 7 months now. Can you talk to us about, I believe they moved in-chain, is that the terminology we're using for Moonbirds? Can you talk to us a little bit about that, which was, I believe, a few hours ago? Was that announcement?
That's right.
Yeah. Can you just talk to us a little bit about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the easiest way to think about this is that the vast majority of NFTs are either stored one of two ways. They're either stored in a centralized fashion, where there's an image that on the blockchain they're recorded, but when they point to the image, they point to it on a centralized server. And if they do that, and that server goes down, so goes your artwork, right? So that's the most risky way for an NFT to exist. The second best way is likely IPFS, in storing it in a decentralized fashion. There's still some risk of loss there. It has to be pinned, meaning you have to kind of support the infrastructure that supports the storage of it in a decentralized fashion. There's another one called Arweave, which is, I think, a little bit better in terms of it being stored and kind of prepaid for what it will be 100+ years into the future. So guaranteed kind of storage into the future. But the absolute best way to do it is to write the image and put the image directly into Ethereum, like into the blockchain itself, so that there are what we call no external dependencies. So people have done this for quite some time. It's expensive. It's very expensive to write a lot of data to Ethereum. It's costly. And so initially, almost every project that went fully on-chain there are two separate terms. On-chain is really just saying that you're storing your data on the chain. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're getting it out or using it out of the chain, but it just means that it's kind of a backup. You can think of it as like a backup drive. What we have done is we've not only stored the data on chain, but we've also rendered it from the chain. So it's in-chain rendering. So we actually have a contract that interacts with the data that is stored on chain. So everything, including the output of it as a graphic, is done on chain as well. So we call that like in-chain rendering. So there are absolutely no dependencies required at all for this graphic to come out. And we did it in such a way that is layered. So Moonbirds as a PFP and as a photo, they're not just a flat image. They're a series of layers. Like the forefront could be the glasses, the eyes, the beak, the body, the background. These are all different layered components. And we stored them and then we remixed them in real time depending on which series of traits that you have. And we do a composite and kind of compose and export them in real time via the smart contract. So something that would have typically and has historically cost several six figures plus USD to put in the blockchain, we were now able to do for less than 1 ETH, which was a huge advancement. We open source all of that tooling, and we hope a lot of other people will make use of the technology that we've written there. Very exciting. The second piece that we did is we now allow people to move their Moonbird directly into the chain and on-chain themselves, so they can spend a couple of dollars and actually they can be the ones that commit it to the chain. And that's just kind of a nice little, we record the wallet address of the person that committed to the chain. So it's like a nice way to say, I'm the one that actually put this on there. In 6 months, we're just going to do it for everyone because it is so inexpensive to do. But we thought initially we would allow individuals to do that. But the most compelling thing of them all, this is kind of tech. Do we have another minute to explain this?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
Okay, so this is kind of it's a new territory for all PFPs, I believe. But one of the things that you all will understand is if you think about a Bored Ape or a Moonbird or any other Cool Cat or any of these PFPs that you've seen online, they all have one thing in common, and they're all static images, right? They don't really do anything. They're just static and they're stuck there. And there have been a couple projects that allow you to remix them. So, you could change a hat, or you could change a jacket, or you could change it and make them more customizable. The problem with that is the market does not react well to that from a collectability standpoint because you're messing with the rarity and scarcity of these different objects. And so as a collector, you're like, okay, if I collect this, do I have to collect this rare hat? And like, what is going on? I just want to own one thing. So it's always been easiest just to own one picture and just call it a day, right? But because of what we're doing at the layering components of all these different layers, and because of the nesting mechanic that we have, nesting is when you put a Moonbird and you lock it into a contract where it can't be made available for sale. What we allow you to do is modify it while it's not for sale, and then if it ever is for sale, it automatically kicks out all of the additions that you've done and returns it to its original native state so it doesn't mess with the scarcity or rarity. But because it's CC0 in public domain, we can now use these in-chain components to remix with other projects. So for example, if you have a Approved Collective badge in your wallet, we can look into your wallet, the Moonbird contracts can look into your wallet, see that you own another NFT, and change visually something on your PFP. So you can imagine a world where we can look into your wallet for all different types of things. There could be NFTs from Nike or other major brands, or you name it, and we could visually change aspects of your PFP dynamically in real time, all on chain, and then kick them all back out if it's ever made available for sale. So it's not modifying the scarcity or rarity. It's a crazy new mashup world with CC0 and what's possible with all these other projects, and we're just now starting to scratch the surface, but we're excited to kick that off and launch that today.
Absolutely. And we actually have, I've got a massive pair of noggles here from Nouns DAO, one of your favorite projects. So Nouns are actually sponsoring NFT Fest this week, and they went to the DAO essentially to get that approved. Can you talk to us a little bit about what to expect from the Moonbirds DAO?
Yeah, well, first let me touch on something that is a little mind-blowing. So the Nouns goggles, fantastic, right? It's CC0, completely open source. So there is our public domain. There's nothing preventing us as a project from putting Nouns glass. If you own a noun, us looking in the wallet and automatically applying Nouns glasses to Moonbirds. And that's the composability that we're talking about that is just so awesome and cool about a CC0 universe, right? So that's just an aside, and I can't say that we're going to do that or not, but it's just something that is pretty exciting about the fact that nouns are also a series of components, created by Gremplin that can be used and remixed in fascinating ways. So it's pretty exciting stuff. So all that said, but yeah, the DAO is really to have folks come in that have a Moonbird and vote and use part of the treasury. We're carving off a chunk of the royalties that go back into the DAO, and they can use it to further the Moonbird brand and ecosystem. Not in a way that we don't want this to be seen as us stepping away. If anything, we want to assist and really help these projects be successful. So we see it as another, giving the community a seat at the table within the Proof ecosystem, but we're still full, kind of just like really doing, and we just hired a head of BD yesterday, where we're going to be doing a lot of different collaborations with big brands. So we're still pushing the brand forward with as much power as we always have, but really want to give the community resources because there are so many skilled people inside of the Moonbirds ecosystem, either great designers or product people or video editors or some fantastic BD folks, and we want to be able to deputize them and say, hey, here's X number of dollars, go off and do something amazing with the Moonbirds brand and ethos. And so we've committed a couple $1 million in capital to the DAO to get things started, and we're going to let people just run wild with it and do some great things with all the CC0 assets.
Amazing. So thanks again for joining us today, Kevin. But we're going to end with a couple of rapid fires. So
Sure.
One NFT in your collection that you'll never sell.
Apologies, want to take a little sip of water there. One NFT I'll never sell, probably Win Airdrop by Xcopy, just because it hits home. You have a person standing with a pitchfork saying "Win Airdrop." It's like a community member, and so there are certainly people within all NFT communities that are saying, "When is the next bag going to land? When is the next thing going to come?" And that's such an early 2018 Xcopy. His earlier works are just insanely expensive now, and it's something where I collected it on the earlier side, and so I can just see holding that for forever and passing that hopefully down to my kids. It's such an iconic piece, and from what a blue chip amazing artist. He's the Banksy of the NFT world, I would say.
Yeah, Xcopy is great. If you could gift one NFT to Henry Shookman, which would it be?
Oh man. That's a good question. I would say to Henry, because he is a Zen master, that would be probably an Art Blocks piece. Probably one of Snowfro's latest drops, like the beautiful gradients. Something. Oh, Marlo has some great pieces too. Marlo does these fantastic gradient, just beautiful pieces that are very peaceful, very fitting for a proper Zen Roshi. So something like that.
Amazing. And just lastly, we do have quite a few Australian and New Zealand Moonbird holders. Actually, someone that's flown in from Hong Kong to be with us at NFT Fest this week. Any alpha for the Moonbirds holders here today?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the exciting things, even if you're not a Proof Collective member, you can see on my Twitter page today how my background for my Moonbird changes, and it's verifiable, and it has the hex and everything, and it's really cool to see the composability and the modifications we can make. We have a lot of fun stuff coming on that front for Moonbirds holders. Some fun little flexes that I think that it's going to be really a fun way to have them as a part of your profile photo and make them more dynamic than they've ever been, that any PFP has ever been. And so that's, we spent the last 3 to 4 months doing a lot of tooling on the back end to make this possible. And now you're going to see a lot more rapid iteration and launches. So it was a lot of heads down kind of work, and I think you'll see the fruits of that coming in the weeks and next couple months. So I'm excited to finally push product out. Like, there's nothing better than actually launching new things, and it's really tough when you have a community that's like, when are you going to do something new? It's been weeks, and you have to stress like, hey, there's some foundational components here that we have to get in place first, but we're finally there. So the team is right-sized. We're like 28 people, and we're just we're cranking out multiple projects at the same time. So we have some surprises even before the end of the year, and then going into next year, it's going to be a strong year for us. So I'm really excited, and I just want to say thanks for all the holders out there. It doesn't matter what this market looks like. We will be heads down building for you for many, many years to come. That's the plan. We love it, and that's what we're committed to.
Amazing. Well, thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you out in Australia at a future event. Thanks for your time.
I promise to make that happen. I really, really, really want to come out there. It is crushing to me that I've been to New Zealand several times now and have yet to make the slightly further trip out. So especially given my taste for high quality coffee, which you all have. So
Absolutely.
We got to make that happen. But I'd love to do it around an event. So if there's something, the next time you all throw an event, and if you want to have me, or I'd even attend, it'd be fun to do something there as well.
Absolutely. We've got a couple of hundred people that just took some videos of that, so we'll play that back to you.
Please do.
Yeah.
I have no doubt.
All right. Thanks again for joining us. Appreciate it.
Take care. Thank you. Cheers.